Hey, I'm Brian with Wampler Pedals. Here with Travis, who is the guy that when you call in the office, he's usually the guy that's going to pick up and answer your questions, pick up the phone, answer your questions, and talk to you about all kinds of crazy stuff that have to do with pedals. We actually had a guy named Philip Dodge who wanted to interview me, and I thought it might be kind of cool to kind of do it on video rather than just something typed out. So I asked Travis if Travis could read some of these questions to me for Philip. And then Philip actually has a really cool blog called p90noir.blogspot.com. And if you check out at the end of this video, I'll put the link up at the end. It'll also be in the notes as well. So you can check his site there. Basically just some questions he wanted to ask me about the business and pedals and stuff. So without anything else, we'll just jump right into it. All right, and the first question from Philip is what?
How long have you been building pedals, and how did you get started? I know you started out modding pedals. What made you say, I need to start building from the ground up and build a better blank?
I wanted the chicks. No, it actually had nothing to do with it, because chicks don't really find nerds cool, you know? They kind of think that guys who mess with capacitors and resistors tend to be a little nerdy. And in all reality, I kind of am just a dork with a breadboard. But,
and an ear for tone.
Well, some might say some sort of ear, maybe. It might just be an infection. I don't know. But, you know, the real answer is I was one of those guys who had a ton of Boss pedals and cheap pedals and a halfway decent amp. I think it had like a PB Classic 50 or something like that, or a Classic 30 or nothing too crazy. And I never really could get the sound I wanted out of it. I had a stock DS1 that I kind of played through a little bit. It was just average. I mean, didn't blow me away or anything like that. But a guy named Paul Weller had modified one and sent it to me. I checked it out, and I compared them side by side, and I was completely just blown away. Mm-hmm. I was like, well, I mean, this is night and day. I mean, the modified version versus the stock version sounded completely different. Mm-hmm. Now, at this time, I didn't have any electronics experience at all. You know, I was just a guitar player.
Right.
So, you know, so I asked him, I was like, my gosh, what did you do? You know, what did you do to make this pedal sound completely different than this pedal? And, you know, it's basically like some Keeley type mods.
Right.
And he just, you know, he explained that there were some websites. This is like 2001 or something, right? Yeah. So this has been years ago, but there's some websites that he had learned how to just change some capacitors and some simple stuff. Yeah. And you know, just had a soldering iron, so he just desoldered them and put new parts in, and that's what gave that sound. So I mean, at that time, I was completely unfamiliar with anything like that at all. Mm-hmm. You know, so I was like, wow, that's cool. You know, a buck worth of parts, and you can make something that sounds mediocre sound really, really cool. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I kind of was just picking Paul's brain. He said, you know, go to, I think it was DIYstompboxes.com, and you go there, and there's all, you know, you can search through and find all different kinds of mods, and so that's what I did. I just started there, and it's like, wow, this is like a whole entire community of people mm-hmm. that are just into this type of stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool. And me being just one of those type of guys that likes to screw around with nerdy stuff, you know, I just dove in and
head first.
Yeah, I really did. I bought a bunch of parts and bought a lot of books. Yeah. And every spare minute I had, I locked myself away and just tear out stuff,
tweaked,
put something in, and let's see what that does. And that's really what happened, you know. I mean, and it just started with that pedal, and I started with every different pedal I had, and just taught myself from the ground up, really.
That's cool. And
you know, that eventually led to like that book I wrote that is like all the different modifications, and that book came about just because I had all these different modifications that, as I was experimenting, I was writing down notes.
Well, document,
if you change R10, it's going to add gain and change the EQ a little bit.
Right.
You know, so I had all these notes, and people were emailing me asking me about, well, you know, I checked out this pedal that you modified. What did you do? And so I was answering a ton of email about mods I was doing, and I was like, this is crazy, man. It's taking me like an hour and a half every night just to answer these emails. So I might as well put it in like some sort of PDF. Mm-hmm. You know, that way I can just like, sell it to them for a few bucks, and then it's worth my time whenever I'm,
Exactly.
helping them out. And then that, that just it created kind of a demand and some sort of, customer base, I guess. And because then I started having people saying, well, can you build me a pedal?
Yeah.
How about, can you build me a distortion pedal that you think sounds good?
Yeah.
And I did that. That led to me developing a line, really.
Yeah.
So that's the short and sweet version, I guess.
Cool.
Maybe not short.
So many boutique builders start with a fuzz. From what I know, you didn't release a fuzz until relatively recently with the Leviathan. What took you so long? Any chance we'll see a fuzz or take on the fuzz face or tone bender?
Fuzz face and tone benders have been done by everybody. I mean, you can't walk into a music store without seeing 10 fuzz faces.
Right.
Or some sort of derivative of that. That's why I like the Leviathan it's not anything at all like a fuzz face
Very
or
unique.
a big muff. It's a whole totally different circuit. And what I found out is that some guys don't really like that. They're looking for a fuzz face, and that's cool. That's just not our customer.
Right.
I mean, if you want a fuzz face, you probably want to check out one of the other 1,000 other guys that are building fuzz faces. But,
Right.
and I'm pretty open to that. We're not going to be, we're not going to satisfy every person. So,
Yeah.
so the real reason why we didn't come up with, I guess I didn't come up with a fuzz first, is just I was primarily kind of a country guy, country picker, and maybe a bluesish, country-ish type guy. I was more into, I don't know, more poppy, rocky type stuff than I was anything to do with the fuzz. I mean, I like some of the Hendrix stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But it just wasn't my
saying.
style. I was a much better finger picker than I was, anything else really.
Right.
And I guess really kind of mediocre at finger picking as well. But I mean, I was always drawn to like distortion overdrive tones. I mean, and you've seen all the prototypes at the office. I mean, I have a gigantic shelf full of prototypes of distortions and overdrives, and I just, I got folders and folders of schematics I've drawn just because I love it.
Right.
And that's probably why we have about 45 overdrive pedals. So,
But each one unique.
each one unique.
Okay. When my band was recording our new album, I had the pleasure of using a 58 Tweed Deluxe and slamming it with a treble booster. The touch sensitivity, sponginess, and creaminess were just unreal. I recently picked up your Tweed 57, and it gets me close to those tones and that feel. How did you cram the soul of a Fender Tweed into your Tweed 57 pedal?
A big shoehorn. No, I mean, really the idea, there's actually, how do I explain it? The way I did it is I bought several Tweed amps, and I sat down with my breadboard. And let me show you my breadboard real quick. Let me get on camera. 'Cause it looks like a mad scientist type thing.
Organization.
Yeah, but I mean, it's this thing right here, and sit down with just a blank sheet of paper and a bunch of parts and a breadboard, and I said I'm going to recreate this tone. This is a tone I love. It's on a million different recordings.
Yeah.
It's possible to put it in a pedal. It's got to be possible. So 10 months later and about 45 prototypes later, I came out with 57 Tweed.
Nice.
Or the Tweed 57. So, yeah, I mean, that's really how that came about, is just me being a fanatic overdrive nut and wanting to get that sound in a pedal and being stubborn and bullheaded enough to
go after
think it could be done.
Yeah.
So.
Here's a question I actually get asked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed you stopped making the cranked AC.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any hope for a new Vox-inspired amp in a box pedal in your lineup?
Yes, there is, and actually I have a prototype.
Is that orange one down there?
Aha! That is it. This is a prototype version of it. It's not quite ready yet. You've played it.
Yeah.
It's getting there, but it's not there yet. And I mean, anybody who knows me knows that it may be another year. it just until I absolutely nail it, that's when we'll come out with it.
Right.
If it's half-assed, I'm not going to do it. I would rather not put anything out there than to put something mediocre out there.
Especially when it's got your name on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which of your designs are you most proud of and why?
which of my designs, pedal designs, I assume.
I would assume.
Normally I would say kids, but which of my design? Golly, they're all like kids in a way. I mean, they're all things that I spent months on, a huge amount of time on, sweat on, trying to get just right. That's like saying which of your kids is your favorite.
Right, I can understand
that. Which one of your parents do you like the most? Well, I mean, sometimes that could be answered, but I mean, you see what I mean.
Right.
I guess me as a player, probably, I really like the slow distortion actually.
Yeah.
For what I do, I mean, it sounds great. I run it through a deluxe reverb usually. And it's fairly bright, and it works really good for it.
Yeah,
I don't use a whole lot of gain, but when I do, that's what I usually use.
Cool.
So that compressor, I always have a Paisley drive on the board. I usually use the faux tape echo, just because it'll modulation off. It's like the analog echo.
Right.
Modulation on, it gets a whole different thing. And primarily, other than that, lots of Boss pedals. No, I mean, I do use some Boss stuff. I got like a tuner and a reverb and stuff I use around then.
But you guys have some pretty big names using your pedals. How did the relationships between Brad Paisley and Britt Mason come about? Can you point to any songs where you know someone used a Wampler pedal on a specific part?
Yeah, I mean, I could. I'd have to think about it for a minute. Off the top of my head, like the Paisley Drive. If you listen to his new album, Camouflage, that's all Paisley Drive. The live album, what's it called? I forget what it's called. He had an album released right before that last year, I think, that was like half live and half greatest hits type thing. A lot of that live stuff was Paisley Drive. Has Eagle compressor all over it. Waiting on a Woman, I think, was our delay, I believe.
It's great.
Let me think. Of course, Britt Mason, and he just tons of stuff he uses. I've modified all of his pedals as it is, anyways. And Hot Wired. I've asked Brent that before, and he'll tell me stuff. Like he said, All About Tonight with Blake Shelton. He said I remember I used it on that one for sure. He goes, I use it all the time though. I don't really remember which songs exactly.
And he does so much.
Yeah, but I mean, every day it's a new band, a new artist, a new song, and so I mean, it's not anything he keeps track of.
Yeah.
But he just remembered that when I was talking to him when we did the video for the Hot Wired, he remembered that he pulled that sound in the studio and the producer loved it. And he's like, that's the sound I want. And it's a pretty cool tone.
He also does a great video on YouTube, and he goes through a ton of Wampler pedals, and he even pulls some out of the drawer saying, I don't have it on the board now, but this is great for that. So
I think I filmed that several years ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was just a kid then.
What's on the horizon for Wampler? Any new pedals we should keep an eye out for?
I don't know. I've been thinking about building something besides pedals. I don't know. I mean, I've had people ask about pedals for Hammond organs, working with some steel players. I've had a few people ask about acoustic type stuff, but I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, really, it all depends on what our customers want. That's really what I mean. I can't tell you what's going to be released next year because it all depends on what our customers tell us to release.
Right.
If like right now we have a bunch of people wanting a wah, so I'll probably do a wah soon.
Right. I look forward to that.
I know we're going to do a trim and a phaser here shortly. The Vox circuit has been, people want that Vox circuit. What else is on the whiteboard up there? Let's see. I know we got another reverb we're working on. I want to do another compressor.
Cool.
We got the Eagle compressor, which is a raw style. I want to do something that's a little bit different, and I don't know if it's going to be optical or based on maybe like that chip, which is a different type of chip. So I don't know, man. I mean, it just depends on what our customers ask.
Right. Feedback.
As long as they don't want us to start making golf clubs or something. So, all right. Again, I'm Brian from Wampler Pedals. Travis, thanks, man. Have a good day.